As I often say, I've been around the business a long time, and I have a long memory, and part of that memory is protein powders and when they entered the market.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, back in the 70s, you had milk and egg proteins. Then you started getting some whey protein, got a little more sophisticated. You had one real plant protein, that was soy protein. And then eventually, you started getting some other ones, pea proteins, rice proteins that entered the marketplace. And they were used by vegetarians, and they were used by maybe women predominantly. But boy, things have changed.
Oh,
now, you're finding it all over the place. You're finding plant proteins that are used in sports nutrition and that are used by people who aren't athletes. And it's just really grown exponentially. And that's really the topic of today's podcast, is the use of plant proteins in sports nutrition. I'm Gene Bruno, professor of nutraceutical science at Huntington University of Health Sciences and senior director of product innovation for NutraScience Labs.
And I'm Ryan Gillen, account executive here at NutraScience Labs, and I specialize in building new brands. Feel free to follow us, subscribe, like this video. If there's any questions at any time, put in the comments. I'll be happy to answer everything. So, Gene, do you now or have you ever taken plant protein?
It's a very personal question.
I know. I mean, you want to share. I mean, it's okay.
I do. In fact, for me, one of the things is I tend to have a sensitivity to some of the dairy proteins. Now, this goes beyond lactose intolerance, which I do have, but for some reason they don't tend to agree with my digestive system.
Okay.
And so I like them, but they don't like me. Plant proteins agree with it much more. As a result, every day I use plant protein. I use a blend of plant proteins together. And I normally use it like mid-morning as my mid-morning snack, mix it in. And it's really quite effective. I like it a whole lot. And I actually got my wife using it now. And still haven't gotten my son to use it yet. I'm trying to get him to use it. I know. But it's really quite effective. How about you? Did you use plant proteins?
I do. So I still use whey protein, but I actually been using a lot more plant protein now. Same type of time frame. I usually use it for like a breakfast shake to go with my eggs or something, but I mix it with fruit and slowly weeding out the whey protein in my diet right now.
Yeah. And listen, this is not to say that whey protein or animal source proteins aren't good. They're great.
Yes.
But there's just other reasons to consider the use of plant proteins. Sometimes a person is a vegetarian.
Yes,
and
this is a perfect alternative to get that extra protein versus just eating their vegetables. Now they have a scoop of protein powder, and they can get a high amount of protein in a quick dose.
That's right. Sometimes they may be like me; they might not have a tolerance to certain kind of proteins, whey proteins, whatever that might bother them a little bit. So it's a good alternative. Or they may just be very socially conscious and concerned with sustainability
very
and earth friendly.
Very
exactly. And so in that situation, plant proteins are great because you're just growing a crop. You continue to regrow the crop. It's very earth friendly, and so that's a reason. The other reasons are kind of very basic. There's a lot of research indicating that plant proteins are effective from a sports nutrition perspective. And beyond that, there's ancillary reasons to use plant proteins, other health benefits that occurs.
I know a lot of people who are either pro plant, pro whey. Some of the difference that maybe the whey protein lovers like about the amino acid score,
right,
or like amount of amino acids versus plant protein versus the animal like milk or cheese or wherever it comes from, like a whey protein.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the brand owners to know too, because this is going to come up, and you should be prepared to answer these questions and know before you produce products. But here's the deal. So there's different ways of measuring protein quality. Currently, the current one is the protein digestibility amino acid score. And it basically says how easy is it to digest the protein and get the amino acids out of it and integrate it into your body, and how bioavailable and everything is. And they have a scoring system. The highest score you can get is a 1, and then below that. So basically, your whey proteins, your caseins, your egg proteins, and even soy protein has a score of 1.
Okay.
All right. Now, certain other plant proteins, like say pea, is a little bit lower, like 0.93. Here's the deal.
It's a very small difference.
Yes, it's a very small difference. And the fact is, anything that's like 0.9 whatever and up is essentially, for all intents and purposes, equivalent.
So it really is almost like there's like no difference between
There really isn't. And again, that's only one way of measuring a protein's quality. The real proof of the pudding is in the research. We'll discuss that in a minute. But the point is, these are very effective proteins. They're going to be well digested, well utilized, well integrated into your body, and there's no problem with those at all.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that really when the plant proteins really started, the main player in the game was the soy protein. And that brings up a whole other concern, really more so from men. That saying it lowers their testosterone or increases estrogen.
Yeah.
Is that a myth or not?
Yeah, it's totally a myth. It's, look, but there's a reason that it came up. Somebody didn't just dream it up for no reason. So soy proteins contains certain compounds that have benefits for like menopausal women. What they do is they have substances in there that weakly bind to estrogen receptors. Now, for menopausal women, the benefit that has is it can reduce, certain menopausal symptoms, and that's a good thing. So they think, oh my God, it's got estrogen in it. It's not estrogen. It's not estrogen. And it doesn't increase estrogen. And I can say that definitively because there's been studies on it looking and measuring the amount, if any changes have taken place in estrogen, testosterone,
and there's
zero changes. And the idea that, it's going to increase estrogen and give you more feminine characteristics. Yeah, look at some of these guys, like these martial artists. They are from cultures that use a lot of soy protein in
one of the
their
greatest
diet.
one was Bruce Lee. He probably that guy was no schlub.
And so the whole thing is that is a myth.
Yeah,
it doesn't have. But it's not a myth. That there's research on soy protein actually helping to stimulate the production of growth hormone.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and which is very cool because, as we know, growth hormone is one of those hormones you need to grow muscle to repair. So there's actually a very real benefit that you get from that. So soy protein is really good. And also, if you're a man, another benefit is it's actually very good for prostate health. So as you get older and you have more concerns with prostate health, this can help. So it is not a bad protein for men. It's a total myth, and it's put some men off from using it when it's a very safe and effective protein for them to use.
Yeah, and since the plant protein has increased so much lately, there's all different kinds of sources for this plant protein.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, soy protein, pea protein. Are there any other sources that you either see in blends or by themselves for these type of products?
Okay, so, I'm sure you see this too, but a lot of times when you have a blend of plant proteins, it's often not just one or two. Sometimes they'll toss in a bunch of stuff. They'll put in a little hemp protein. They'll put in a little pumpkin seed protein.
And I see the watermelon seed.
The newest one.
The newest one that no one knows about, but it looks pretty on the bottom.
They've even got a cranberry protein.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but look, here's the deal. I don't have problems with those proteins. I don't know what their amino acid score is. I don't know certain things about them. And besides that, they generally only toss in a few
to make it look pretty.
And to make it look pretty.
And maybe more for like a marketing type.
Yeah, right. It's a little smoke and mirrors, really. And I don't have a problem with it as long as the major components are established proteins that show efficacy. Mm-hmm. Now, earlier when I was saying it's not just amino acid score, it's what the research shows. So let's take an example of rice protein.
Okay.
All right. Let's compare it to the gold standard. The gold standard is what? Whey.
Yes.
Okay? A very interesting study where they gave a fairly high amount. I think it was 48 grams of whey protein to subjects and 48 grams of rice protein to subjects. And, they exercised. The results were that these guys actually gained the same amount of muscle. So there's no difference in the amount of muscle growth that you had between the whey group and the rice protein group. So it is effective. It's not the only one that's effective. I mean, you can look at pea protein. They actually, there's a study, again, comparing it to whey protein, and they looked at muscle thickness, the density and thickness of the muscle.
Yeah, and it's definitely a growing thing. And for people to say, if you're a vegetarian or you're taking plant protein, you're not going to get as big. There's strongman competitions where the athletes are vegan or vegetarian. There is an amazing U.S. Olympic lifter. I blanking on his name, but he is unbelievably strong.
Yeah.
And he is only plant-based foods, vegan, but he does supplement with plant protein.
Absolutely.
And he is still a unit. He is a gorilla. He's an animal. And he's super strong, and he's stronger than most people I know.
Well, look, here's the deal. It's not like your body goes, oh, well, that's protein from whey. I'm going to use that to build muscle versus, it's a pea protein. No, I'm not going to use that
protein.
one. It's protein, all right? It's amino acids. It's the building blocks of protein. It's going to take it. It's going to use it. And I mentioned the pea protein study comparing it to whey and muscle thickness. And guess what? Just like the other study with rice, he showed it was absolutely equivalent to whey protein. You had the same benefits. So again, you can get, especially with things like pea protein and rice protein, you see those equivalent kind of benefits.
And that is a big thing for, the brand owners out there or the new brand owners that are coming out. If your target market are those hardcore athletes, they can still benefit from a plant protein rather than just a whey protein or, animal-based product.
Absolutely. And furthermore, I mentioned in the beginning that aside from just sports nutrition, there's ancillary benefits. Mm-hmm. So in pea protein, there's research on it with regard to blood pressure, showing it to help to promote really healthy blood pressure levels. So if you're somebody who has concerns there, hey, here's a really good thing that you can use that gives you that ancillary benefit. And what if you're a person who is trying to build muscle and maybe lose some fat? So maybe you're doing some kind of, you don't want to eat too much junk, you maybe want to maybe decrease your appetite just a little. There's studies on whey protein helping with satiety, the sense of, oh, I'm satisfied. I feel full. I don't need to keep eating.
Yeah.
All right. Especially junk. Pea protein has been shown to be effective for that.
Thing. Yeah.
And soy protein is another example of ancillary benefits. There's studies on it showing it to help reduce cholesterol levels.
And I know you're saying about prostate health as well.
Prostate health. There's studies on it for postmenopausal women, helping hot flashes. I mean, there's a lot of good research on plant proteins and the good that it does. So honestly, plant proteins are an excellent option. And if you're a brand owner, you are missing the boat if you don't have a plant protein, at least one plant protein product. Now, it's not like you shouldn't have whey. Of course, you should have a whey product. You should have a plant protein product because it's what's growing. You find a lot of millennials, especially.
I know the increase of vegetarians out there, vegans out there have increased tenfold. And a lot more people, like you said, millennials are a little bit more conscious of what they're eating.
A lot more conscious and socially conscious and
exactly
conscious and all.
And then I know a lot of brand owners they might get that idea of plant protein doesn't taste good. You can't flavor it.
Yeah.
Not true
That's
anymore.
because back when they first came out, it was more chalky. It didn't have as good of a thing. They become so much better at the way they process the protein, at the kinds of flavoring systems that can be used with those proteins, the kinds of sweeteners that can be used, and you can end up with something that's really quite nice.
Yeah, and this is something that you would need to speak with your manufacturer on getting a plant protein that's going to taste good. Making sure that they have a certified food scientist who his job is to flavor products, and they'll let you know, like, all right, you have this blend, these 3 flavors are going to work great with it. Stay away from the vanilla, stay away from cookies and cream. We're going to go hard chocolate, maybe a chocolate peanut butter, and it will make the product taste delicious.
Okay, so you made a very important point about working with a contract manufacturer that has somebody that can do that kind of flavoring. But just in general with flavor, the other thing is, if you're going to come out with one, don't come out with one, come out with 2.
Yes.
Do at least 2 flavors to give people a choice. I do myself a plant protein that's a chocolate and a vanilla. I got a can of.
And you can always add fruit to it. You can add other stuff to it.
But because I love chocolate, but I don't want to get tired of it, so I alternate it. One day I do chocolate, the next day I do vanilla, go back and forth, and it's good because it helps to give me those options, and I just don't get tired of one over the other. Whereas if somebody uses the same one every single day, guess what? Eventually they're going to go, I want something else.
And what's great about having an excellent contract manufacturer, you're going to get flavor samples to try.
That's right. And you need to do that. You need to work with a contract manufacturer who can provide some of those flavor samples. And I bet you've tried a lot of...
I've tried hundreds of products, both whey, plant, and some flavors work and some flavors don't. And that's okay, but you should be trying them as well. Not only should the food scientists be trying it and just making the product, you should be getting 3 to 5 servings of everything, and you need to try it. Have your friends try it.
I remember
It's the best way to do
I
it.
remember once working on a greens food product.
Oh boy!
And we were looking at different flavor stuff, and they gave us a chocolate greens food product. It was like one of the most vile things I ever tasted. It just was a very nasty combination.
I know a new big flavor for these type of plant products are doing like a coffee mocha type flavor, because coffee is a very strong, potent, and you don't need a lot of it to flavor something.
That's right. And the nice thing is it covers a multitude of sins in terms of bitterness and other flavors, because that flavor can overpower stuff, which for the better. So
that's right.
Again, with any kinds of proteins, it's about having a source of protein that people like. It's about having taste. If people don't like the taste, no matter how good it is, they're just going to stop using it.
And like we said in the past, a qualified contract manufacturer will be able to guide you through this flavor sample, through the testing, to get you something that is going to taste great and you're going to be happy with.
Absolutely. So, there's a whole lot more, we could talk about in regard to plant proteins, but I think that pretty much provides the basic foundational information that people should know. I would wrap up again by saying, brand owners, make sure you offer more than one kind of protein. You got to have a whey protein, because that's sort of the standard in the business. You got to have a plant protein. You should do like a couple of flavors anyway, and work with a contract manufacturer that has the capacity to do good flavoring, so that you're going to end up with a product that is palatable to the end user.
It's great. I believe there's a blog post that
There
we can
is.
talk about. Maybe they can look up.
We've got a plant protein guide for 2020.
Okay.
So if you guys want to take a look on the NutraScience Labs website, you can find that, and it'll provide all kinds of great information about plant proteins, helping you make some informed choices about the kind of products you want to have in your brand.
And again, subscribe, follow, like us on YouTube. If there's any questions, whether you're trying to get the blog or just questions about just this video, put them in the comments. Happy to answer them. Next topic is difference between carbs and protein.
It's a great topic.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks.
Take care.